Welcome to Artistic Adventures. Today I'm going to be giving you a few sewing tips, especially as related to necklines and sleeve openings, which are harder for small doll patterns. So I'm back from my first knee surgery on my right leg, and everything went pretty well so far. Appreciate all the nice thoughts and prayers from, I think, the last video I made when I told you about it. Really appreciate those kind thoughts. Everything helps when you're in pain. So, this video is kind of like maybe a little off the wall, but I've had couple of comments from different people over a period of time about sewing, issues with sewing. One of which is the finishing of necklines and sleeve openings. So I want to address these because it's a little different when you're talking about a smaller size pattern than you are, say, a human adult pattern, and how you sew it is different because you just don't have as much room to work with, as much real estate with the dress. So there's things like you can have a plain neckline like this dress and plain sleeves. There's little turned under. This one has like a turned under, like a small piece of fabric that's turned under, and then the sleeves are not gathered very much. It's just plain sleeves. You could have something like this where you put elastic in it and then a cuff. There's a variety of ways to do it, but what I want to kind of break down is just the difference in sewing at the smaller size and to make it easier for you. Okay, I don't want that. If you try to make this like an adult dress, it's just going to make you so mad that you'll never sew again. So, I'm using a really basic pattern. This is for 12-inch or 11-inch doll, like a bodice. And first of all, if you notice, for doll patterns specifically, the top bodice part's going to look like this, as opposed to an adult pattern where you're going to have a front, let's see, it's going to look like that, would be like the half of the front, and then the same thing for the half of the back, because you're going to have a shoulder seam usually. And that's one of the biggest differences. If you try to make a doll like that, a dress like that on a smaller scale, you just don't have the room to go in and hem a collar, a neckline, or the sleeve. So you really need to put the sleeve in like this. Not to say you can't do shoulder seams, you certainly could, but still you're going to want to put the sleeve in opened like this instead of how you would do it with, say, an adult pattern, where you would have gone ahead, sewed the side seam, and then you would have inset the sleeve into here and sew it. Well, you see, you just don't have the room in there to get in there and sew. So I'm just going to give you a few tips on that. The first thing we're going to do is put down this pattern, and I'm going to put down a sleeve pattern as well as a little cuff pattern. That's going to be another option here. And I'm going to cut out 2 of these, and 2 of these, and 2 of these. And the reason I'm cutting 2 of these is this is the easier way to do the finishing touch on this. So let me go off camera and do that. I'll be right back. I went ahead and cut out 2 of these because I'm going to show you a couple different things. I'll need 2. The first thing that's different about adult or human patterns versus these smaller doll patterns is that you're going to cut the whole bodice. You're going to cut 2 of the whole bodice instead of normally you would just cut 1 and then you would deal with doing a facing or something around the collar to finish off the neckline. But I'm going to show you how to do this. It's so much easier for you to do. And it's going to make this look like a neater project. You're going to have a nice finished look to the neckline, as opposed to it being, like if you try to turn this under, because it's a circle, it's going to be really hard. So if you've ever tried to do it, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So we're going to turn these right sides together. So we got the wrong side up here, and match everything up. And what we're going to do is sew up the back, around the collar, and down the back. Okay? So the first thing you want to do is pin it, because when you're sewing something that's small, it can really get out of whack when you're trying to go around the curves of the collar of this part. Okay, and when you sew it, you're going to sew about this far from the edge. So about, what is that? I'm just going to measure it. I'm just going to actually use science here. It's about 1/4 of an inch, right? Yeah, because that would be 1/2. So 1/4 of an inch seam all the way around. So I'll finish pinning this and sewing this on my sewing machine, and I'll be right back. I sewed this in black thread just so you could actually see where the thread is. Normally I would have sewed it in probably red or white to match the color of the fabric. So you can see that I sort of sewed this little keyhole kind of pattern. Now, if you try to turn this inside out like this, it's going to be hard because of the circle. So what we want to do is take the strain off of this outer edge that's smaller than the sewed edge. And you do that by snipping. And naturally my scissors are going to give me a fit. So what you're trying to do is remove excess fabric so that this is going to lay flat. So I'm just kind of cutting a little V. I'm not going all the way down to the thread, but close to it. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm using my hair cutting scissors. So what's worse, using your sewing scissors for something other than fabric, or using your hair cutting scissors for fabric? Okay, so the thing is, they're so sharp and they kind of have that serrated edge so they don't slip when you're trying to cut something. So for some of these smaller things, I actually do that. I'm a bad girl, I know. But anyway, the other thing I'm going to do is snip off this corner. Once again, just trying to get rid of some fabric so it's not bunched when we try to turn this. Same thing over here, just going to snip off that corner. Get rid of some fabric. Put one more little cut in here. So we're trying to get that finished look, you know, like a real dress, like a real dressmaker's dress. Now we're going to turn it, and really, when you're sewing like this, you've got to have a little iron. You really do. I've showed you this one before. I'll put a link below where you can get it. It has up to 4 heat settings. It's got this little stand that flips out so you can, you know, set it up. And I really find it indispensable for these small things, because you do have to press them and for them to look right, and it's hard to get into these tight places or deal with this with a regular size iron. It's just really hard. So I'm going to just turn this inside out, kind of using my fingers to press a little bit. I don't know, is anybody who's my regular viewers out there, has anybody yet said, wait a minute, she never uses patterns. Why is she using a pattern? Yeah, I am using a pattern today. And the reason is a lot of people do use patterns, and I want you to see the difference and how this is going to look if, for instance, you buy patterns for dolls or whatever. Just want to show you the difference. All right. So we're getting this turned. We're using our fingers to press it out. You may need something a little bit pointy than my finger to get that corner of the top of the back seam out. Alright. So I'm going to put this on the fabric to iron it because I do have sort of a plastic melty possible table. Okay. So I'm going to try to get it laid flat so that when we iron it, we're ironing it in the right shape. So this will help keep it flat and also keep the wrinkles out of it while we're working on the other parts of this top. Alright, so as you can see now we have a really finished edge. You know, it's not raw, it's not jagged, it's looks like facing. So that's really the easiest way to do just the plain neckline if you're going to do it like that. Now what if you wanted to put a collar on this top, or maybe lace? Alright, let's talk about that. First of all, let's talk about collar. If you don't have a pattern for the collar, it's really simple. You're just going to go in here with this pattern and make sure I've got enough room. And we're going to pin it down because we want the neckline of the collar and the neckline of the bodice to be the same size. So let's start there. Alright, so you've got this part. So let's just cut this inner circle out. Alright, I'm just going to cut up the middle here. And then we're going to cut this out. Back off of that a little bit so I have room to move and you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got that part cut out. Now we can take this off. Alright. So let's just, well, you know, you could sketch this. I guess I should do that because that's what most people would do. I would probably just cut it, but I'm going to sketch it with something that you can actually see. I'll use this red pen, red pencil, so you can see it. So we're going to make the collar, and you remember you're going to have 1/4 of an inch of a seam, so you want the collar to be bigger than it will be when you finish the 1/4 inch. And if you needed to measure, you could just measure from here out so you've got the same amount all the way around. I'm just eyeballing it because that's how I roll. Alright, now this would be a solid collar all the way around. If you wanted to do like a Peter Pan collar, you could come up in the front like this. Let me zoom in on this. I always do the focus instead of the zoom. Ah! Alright. So if you wanted to do one whole collar, you'd cut this whole thing out. If you want to do Peter Pan collar, you would cut this out. And then you're going to have two separate pieces. But still, you're going to match it up with this. Alright, so I'm just going to cut this out to show you how this would work. So then you would take this to the sewing machine after you've put the two right sides together. Like that. Okay, and then you would sew starting here down the back seam, around the outer edge, and up the back seam. So once you have that done, let's look how that would work. I'm not going to actually do it because I want to show you how to do lace too on the same one. Alright, so we've got our bodice. I'm going to turn it like we did. Then you put this in between. Let's say you've already sewed it and it's been turned and ironed and it's right side out. Okay? You're going to put it in here like this. You're going to put this on top of it. And then you're going to do exactly what we did on this one. You're going to sew up the back. If you don't want the collar to be sewn into the seam, you're going to have to move it out of the way so you don't catch it in your seam here. Go around the neckline and down the back. Then when you turn it, you're going to have your collar on the front laying down, and you'll have to iron that. Okay, so that would be the collar if you wanted to do that. And like I said, if you wanted to do Peter Pan collar, you're going to have to cut this in two pieces. So it would be like, because this is the front and this is the back. So this would be Peter Pan is going to curved. Alright, so you got two pieces instead of one. But it's the same deal. You still want to sew them, turn them, iron them. Then you're going to put them in the middle. Put this on top of it and sew it. But when it comes out, it's going to look like that. Cute. Yep. Alright, let's talk lace. Let's say you want to have a little lace at the top neckline. Let me find some small lace that would work for that. This would probably work. No, this is probably too big. Yeah. Oh, this might work. We'll use that. Have lots of little scrap lace, thanks to my friend Deb. Now, if it's if you need to, you may have to run a gathering thread in here so that you can get this into a circle. And you can do that with needle and thread. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Alright, I've got my needle threaded here and I've got this lace. So I'm just going to start at this end. And, ooh, my knot went right through it. Apparently my knot is not big enough. Alright, so I want to put an extra loop in there just to make sure that holds. Since my knot seems to be a little bit small. Okay. So I'm just using a single thread and just doing a very loose stitch in and out to make a gathering thread. So I haven't cut this lace yet because I want to see how much I want to gather it, and then that's going to depend on how long it needs to be. So I'll just kind of keep an eye on it. You don't want to do the gathering thread down too far because you are going to be sewing this fairly close to the edge, so you don't want your gathering thread to show, although this is so close to the color of the fabric it probably wouldn't. Alright, so I'm going to pull that a little bit, and you see how that gathers that up, and that makes it easier to go into a circle. Let's kind of take a look here now and see how much we're going to need. A little bit more. Okay. See how that looks. Angle this down a little bit more. And just another stitch or two should do it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is put a knot here, and that will keep the thread from pulling loose and our ruffled edge from unraveling. Put a little knot at the end. Alright, and now we can cut the lace because we know how much we need. So you're going to put this, just like we did the collar, right at the edge. You want to sort of get the gathers even so they don't look like they're all bunched up in one area. Now, probably if you're a beginner, beginning sewer, you're going to want to go ahead and either baste this in by hand or sew it on the sewing machine. I would suggest that you baste it in by hand. And because I'm trying to be a good example, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it off camera. So I'm just going to sew around, I'm going to sew this lace down to this with needle and thread. I finished sewing this down by hand. Not trying to be extra neat or anything, just to get it to where it's lying flat. And then we're going to put our other piece of the bodice on top of this. And match it up, just like we did for this one. And then we'll pin it down. And we're going to do the same type of sewing that we did before. I'm going to sew up the back seam around the neckline and down the other back seam. Do that on the sewing machine. I'll be right back. Finished sewing this. I did this one actually in white thread since you saw the other one. And I'm going to do the same sorts of trimming, trim the edges off, do the little V-cuts, and do these all the way around. We're cutting through both the lace and the fabric now. Just make sure you don't go too far and cut the seam, as I have been known to do. Yeah, I've done it. I admit it. I make the mistakes so you don't have to. Almost around. Cut off this side. Okay, people calling me, stop. Just stop. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn this. We've got our iron over here, hot and ready. And I'm just kind of pulling on the lace to get that neckline out. And pulling out the corners there. So depending on which side you want, you know, these are identical, but you know, depending on which side you want to be the actual front and which side you want to be sort of the lining, I guess, you're going to pull the, I can't believe I sewed through the bottom of that. Okay, that's okay. It's just a little edge. I'm going to cut it off. Doesn't matter. So we can iron this down. Now you could have it stand up. I mean, there's lots of things you can do. Like, let's say you wanted that to be the neckline. You wanted it to stand up. You could do that. But if you want it to lie flat, you're going to have to iron it down. Which means you're going to have to pull it forward. And this is where these little irons like this help. Because if you try to do this with a big iron, you are going to get burnt. I'll bet you. Because I've done it too. Alright. So with this, you just got that nice little point. You can get in there. I think I've done everything. I've sewed through my fingernail. I've sewed through my hand. I've burnt myself. Taking all the pain for you guys. But whoever's calling me, please stop. Alright. There. Now if you really had something that wasn't laying down good for you, you could always go in and do some stitching underneath to hold this down. Like go and, you know, with your needle up underneath and into the, but this actually is lying down pretty well. This is a cotton lace, and you can see that that's looking pretty cute right there. So that's a nice little lace neckline. So we've showed you how to do collar, we've showed you how to do just a plain neckline. So I think that's about it for necklines, really. This is the best way to do it. Just go ahead and cut out 2 bodice parts and sew your neckline. Plus, you've got your back ready to go when you sew the skirt part on. You know, this is already finished, so you can put, you know, buttons or, you know, Velcro or whatever you want on it. It's ready to go. No. So next we're going to be working on sleeves. Let's talk sleeves. So we have the sleeve pattern. I'm going to take one of the 2 that we cut. How big this is going to mean whether or not you have to gather the sleeve or you can just sew it into the space. And you can kind of tell just from looking at it, you know, because what I usually do is start in the middle. And then, can I work this amount in from this edge? So you got this edge and you got the middle. Can I work that amount in? No. Now, if that was a little bit slacker, I probably could, because you can work in a little bit of fullness. But given the amount of fullness here, you would have to gather it. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Oh, I just had really bad experience. Oh, don't ever use fray check. Put your finger in it and then lick your finger. Excuse me just a minute. Sorry about that. I had to go wash my mouth out. Don't ever eat Freychak or taste Freychak. It's not good. Okay, so while I was off camera, I went ahead and ran this gathering thread through the top of the sleeve. So now all we have to do is pull it a little bit, and then we're going to put it on here. Now this seems odd because this sleeve is shaped like this, and the opening is shaped like this. But that's what makes the magic of sewing work. So we're going to put the middle of the sleeve up here against the edge of this and pin it. And then we're going to curve this up to the edge here and pin it. And make sure that this matches up and pin that. So you can see how the gathers really helped work this material together. Get this together where it's supposed to be. And then we'll put a pin right here at this edge. Pull this until it's the right amount, and then we're going to tie off a little knot here so this won't unravel. Our gather thread won't pull out like my pin just did. Here we go. They're magnetic. Alright, so you gotta put a pin in here. Alright, so you can see now that fits together well, and we're just going to sew from here over to here, and I'm going to try to go either on top of or just under my gather thread so that won't show, and I'll be right back. Finish sewing that, and we can take the pins out. Now we turn it, and we'll look at it as if this was already turned. So that's our neckline. This is going to be where the skirt attaches, and here's our sleeve. So you've got options here. You could just hem this, and if you did, I would do it while it's still open like this. Just turn that under and hem it. And once it's hemmed, then you're able to put the underarm seam and the side seam together and sew that, and then your sleeve's finished. You could put a little lace on it. You could just sew some lace down. I'd probably put some fray check on that so it wouldn't ravel, and then just put some lace down on top of that and sew it. I was trying to find my little piece of lace that I had. Well, we can use it different. So just put the lace down like right on top of the edge. Don't lick your finger after touching the fray check, and just sew that down. That would finish the edge. And then the other option is the piece that I fell on the floor a while ago, of course, is to put a cuff on it. So to put a cuff on it, we got this little piece here, and we're going to take one off. Still, as long as you're working on this, it's easier to work on it before it's been sewed down. So what I would do is put another gather thread in here, in the bottom this time, and that's so we can match up the bottom of this with the cuff. I hope this is interesting to you guys. I've just had some questions from different people over the last few months about finishing off edges and how to do, because clothes like this are so small, how are they different? How can you finish necklines and make them look nice, or the edge of sleeves? And I even have another idea up my sleeve. Get it, up my sleeve. But this one, of course, is just if you want to have, you know, really more elaborate look. So, you know, you could even do this with elastic, like sew some elastic down underneath on this side, like you stretch it and sew it down, and then when it pulls back together it gathers it, and then you'd have like a little puff sleeve. So there's that. And then if you do it this way, you would want to match up the edge of your cuff. So let's pin this down over here to the bottom of the sleeve, and then kind of gather it the right amount so that it matches the length of the cuff, like that. And then I'm gonna have to pull that some more to get it to work, and kind of pull our gathers out. Yeah, that looks about right. So I'm going to tie this off. These fake nails drive me crazy. Okay, I think I've got it pulled about enough. So now we're just going to tie a knot in the end here to keep it from slipping. Put another one in just for good measure. Because what will go wrong, right? Okay, so we're going to come back in here and put some pins in to hold this down while we sew it. Now all of this stuff I'm doing a lot of it on the sewing machine, but you can do this by hand. You're just going to have to take really small stitches so that your seams don't pull apart, you know, when you get ready to fold, you know, to turn it inside out or outside in or whatever. Inside out. Yep. No. Turn out the outside out. I don't know what I'm saying. What am I saying? Alright, so there you see. You got the cuff over here. You've got the gathered sleeve. Let me go sew that, and I'll be right back. We finished sewing that. I'm going to take the pins out. And grab this thread. There you go. Now if you wanted to do this on the sewing machine, you can just turn that under, see, turn the cuff under there, go back and sew right on top of that edge. If you want to do it by hand, you would go underneath and sew that down. Then when you put it together, you've got a little cuff on your puff sleeve, like that. Alright, now I told you I had one more trick up my sleeve, and I do. This is another way to finish a sleeve. Now, let's say you wanted to have a sleeveless dress. Is it possible to finish that? Yes, of course. I think it's probably easier if you don't want to put any lace or anything on this, to start in the middle. First of all, put fray check on these edges so they don't ravel out. Don't taste it, right? And starting in the middle, you're just going to turn under both sides. So that it looks like it was a seam, but it's not really a seam. Okay, but you can sew over this. So you would just go around and do that until you had, you know, finished. So you could do it that way. I want to show you another way, which I think it's more pretty and interesting. So you've got your sleeve pretty much together here. And it's fun to use something like silk ribbon. Oh, there's My girl just fell over. My little girl. Silk ribbon, because, why? Because it's very thin and it gathers really well. If you try to use regular ribbon, it's a little bit stiffer and it doesn't give the look that I like. So what we're going to do is what's called ruching, R-U-C-H, ruche. Ruching with an ing, meaning to gather, to create a ruche. And let me get my needle thread out of here. So you want to use the same color thread as your ribbon. That's kind of an off-white, and this is an off-white thread. Once again, I am not going to lick my finger because that stuff is still on there. Get my knot. Okay, now to do this, I'm going to start on one end of the sleeve opening right here. So you can see that's the sleeve opening. I'm going to start over here. I like to do this before I sew the side seam up, but you know, everybody's different. I just find it easier to work with this when it's laid out flat like that. So I want to get another, and then I start with the ribbon, and first of all, let me get this point off of there. Fold the end over, just so that it's not a raw edge, and get that end secured by putting the needle. Oh no, you know what I just did? I think I went, well, maybe it won't matter. Yeah, that's all right. All right. I just want to get this down so the ribbon doesn't come off of the material when I'm starting. So I'm going to put a couple of little stitches through it. Okay, now I'm going to get a little closer for you guys. Make sure it's in focus. So as you sew, you're just going to gather up this ribbon. So what I do is I kind of take my needle, go in and out, in and out, in and out, and I'm just going through the ribbon. Wait a minute, I don't think you can see that. Is that clear? I wish I could see. Oh, okay, I think that's clear. So just through the ribbon, not through the fabric underneath. Okay, after I've gone through like 3 or 4 times, then I'm going to pull it to gather it. Yeah. Alright, see how it made the little gather there? And then I'm going to go down into the fabric to lock it down. Yeah, see, it sounds easy, but it's not. It actually is not that hard. It's just hard for me to do it on camera because I'm trying to contort my body to keep whatever's in the video in the video. Alright, so see, you got your little gather. And basically, you just keep doing that. You're gathering excess ribbon. Dun, dun, dun. You know, 4 or 5 times, in and out. And then gathering it up, but you're putting the down on the fabric right beside of almost where the other one was, so it stays gathered up. So this can take a little while, but it's really pretty. Okay, back to the ribbon, in and out. in and out, in and out. A few more times. Pull it. Don't let your thread get balled up, because that makes you angry. And when you're hungry too, you're hangry, which I am. I had breakfast, but I haven't had lunch, and I'm hangry. Because this is not knotting up on me. Yes. Oh, gosh. There we go. All right. Now, I want to go off and finish this so that I can do it without killing somebody. And then I'll come back and show you the finished. Oh, God, I hate these little knots that get in thread. This should be against the law. Why? Why me? Alright, I have to go. I have to just put this down. I'll be right back. I finished this off camera. So here's the hangry portion. Here's the non-hangry portion. You can see the difference. Ah, that's funny. That's funny. Anyway, that's how it's supposed to look right there. It's kind of screwed up over here because I was, you know, preoccupied. Anyway, so if you put that together and then you sew the underarm seam, you'll have a pretty little sleeve opening that looks like that. Yeah. So that's one way to do something different. You know, you could even do this on the bottom of a cuff like this. Like, instead of doing this cuff with the fabric, you could just gather up this and then sew it down. So gather up the sleeve like we did, so it would look more like that. And then do the ruching on top of that, so it would be on the bottom of a poof sleeve. That's a whole lot of poof going on, but so, you know, you could, well, I don't know, that's a lot of poof, but if you didn't put the cuff on, you could put it right here and have it look like that. So poof to poof. Anyway, that's several little tips I wanted to show you. The rest of it's pretty easy. I mean, you're just going to sew on the skirt, you know, that's easy. I mean, unless you want to see something like that, you could put it in the comments about making a dress. I've made dresses before, but these finer details, like you know, how to do the collar and all, I haven't really talked that much about, or some of the things with sleeves. This can be used as decoration on other parts of dresses or tops or whatever. It's something that's decorative, and this silk ribbon is really pretty. And I found if you go on Etsy, you can find like grab bags of silk ribbon for pretty cheap. You know, it won't be like real long pieces, and they might all be different colors that you can't pick. But for dolls, you don't need that much anyway. So I've been able to find some pretty cheap pieces of silk ribbon. Comes in like 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. I think it comes in like a lot of different sizes. This is, I guess that's 1/4 inch right there. Or, yeah. Let's measure it. Let's use the scientific. Yeah, 1/4 inch. That's 1/4 inch. Anything smaller than that, it really is hard to get it to look good. But you could use smaller pieces of this to make a ribbon. Like this is 1/8 inch, so you know, you might want to use it for more like ties, like if you wanted to do little ribbon ties on something. This is a bag I got that had like rose colored. I didn't get to choose the colors, but it was pretty cheap. There's some pretty peach that I found. A lot of people have remnants of both fabric and ribbons and things on Etsy, so you know, they might come all jumbled up. Like this is one I got is all jumbled up. You gotta pull it apart, but hey, If you save a bunch of money, who cares, right? That's my motto. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of it. Like to, bring you some tips now and then. And I had kind of a couple of pretty intense projects recently with the Steampunk Girl, and I off camera was doing Morticia and Gomez. So the next thing I'm going to do, and I doubt I'm going to do it on camera, is make a dress for this little ball jointed girl that I got, my little beauty. That's going to be hard, so I'll probably do that off camera, but I'll show you how it turns out. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, because that helps me with YouTube. And also, if you haven't, of course, please subscribe. Thanks. Bye.